An Academy Award nominated director bringing us a horror movie sounds like a recipe for success, but is this new Lee Daniels movie worth watching? Let's discuss. The Deliverance tells the story of a family that moves into a house and begin to experience creepy and supernatural things. A pretty basic horror movie premise, if I've ever heard one, but this movie is actually quite well made. Right off the bat, I was very impressed with how this movie didn't necessarily feel like you were watching a horror movie per se. In fact, the first 2/3 of this movie really felt like a serious drama about family and abuse and just that trauma that gets passed down from generation to generation. I have to say, Andre's character Ebony, who by the way is the main character, she's not very likable. She is just kind of a bad person all the way around and a very crummy mom. From the moment she appeared in a scene with her kids, you can tell that this is just a shitty parent, one of the parents that you get angry when you think about. She has a foul mouth, she's constantly drinking, she's abusive, but all these things seem like they are tying back to her mother and her past. One of the things that is immediately apparent is that she did suffer from an abusive childhood herself. Her mother, played by Glenn Close, was not a great mom either, and the pain that she brought down to her daughter, Ebony, is now bringing to her kids, and that is just the vicious cycle of abuse that is so hard to break. So it was in these moments when Ebony was facing her mother and facing some of that anger that she has over her past and the way she was treated that I actually was able to connect with and sympathize with her character, because I experienced a lot of those same things in my own childhood. And as hard as I try to fight it, I know that some of that anger still comes out of me from time to time. It's a very hard thing to beat. By the time you meet Alberta in this movie, Ebony's mom, she is a changed woman. She has found God. Church and Jesus have given her a purpose and a chance to redeem herself. And when Ebony asks her to move in to help take care of things, I think that the reason she agrees is because she can see that Ebony is suffering. And she knows that she is at fault with some of that, so she feels like she has a responsibility to these grandkids. I think this movie is at its best when it is exploring this family dynamic and just this idea of trauma and abuse and trying to make amends with the whole thing. The movie starts to fall apart, however, when it starts leaning into the same horror movie cliches that we've seen in dozens and dozens of other horror movies. One thing I did very much appreciate about this movie is, unlike a lot of horror movies that have very dumb characters doing really stupid things that really have you, the audience, scratching your heads and wondering why, this movie kind of has the opposite of that. In fact, there's times where there's weird things going on and Ebony really doesn't even investigate at all. She just closes the door and minds her own business. And that is kind of unique and a little bit weird after all the horror movies you've seen where they do just the opposite. Now, I think I've already made it pretty clear that Ebony, in my opinion, is not a very good person, but that is brought to life by Andra Day's exceptional performance. She immerses herself deeply into this character and brings her to life with a bitterness that almost felt natural. Glenn Close also does a fantastic job in this movie. Her and Andra Day have very excellent chemistry. You really can feel the bitter rivalry between these two, but you can also see that there is love there at the end of the day. There is just a lot of complicated feelings between these two, and I think that these two actresses really sold this quite well. I also very much enjoyed Monique's character in this movie. She's not around this movie very much, but the scenes that she is in, she really does make an impact. As a matter of fact, there's a scene towards the last half of this movie or something that I think could qualify her for an Academy Award nomination. Monique did great. Bottom line, the acting in this movie is great. I think everyone did a fantastic job, and Lee Daniels really did craft a very interesting movie for the first 2/3. It's like a lot of other possession movies that you've seen, The Exorcist, The Conjuring, Insidious, all these things dealing with the subject. They've all shown us the same things that we're seeing in this movie, and that is the reason that this movie does not score as high as it could have. I just felt very let down by the way this movie ended. I thought this movie had such high potential. It really was a very engrossing movie. And I thought Lee Daniels bringing a horror movie, what could go wrong? There's lots of over-the-top contortions and bone-breaking sounds, and just a lot of screaming and jump scares that overall didn't really add to this movie, nor make it a better movie. With all that being said, for me, this movie is a 7 out of 10. I really was leaning on a higher score for this movie, but that last act really just kind of lost me. It brought things down, and that just goes to show you, you can have an amazing movie for the first 3/4 of a movie, whatever, and you can still mess it up. The ending is so crucial. You don't get to have a 75% good movie and then 25% crap and still get that high score. That's not how it works. That's why I said 7 out of 10. Did you guys see this movie yet? If you did, please put your thoughts on that in the comments. Did you like this video? If you did, please hit the like button. And if you want to hear more things from me, please subscribe to this channel. Later.